Suella Braverman's undermining confidence in police and eroding trust in democracy, Tory MPs claim in a leaked message. I'm going to read into this exclusive from Sky News, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an exclusive from Sky News with the headline that Suella Braverman's undermining confidence in police and eroding trust in democracy, Tory MPs claimed in a leaked message. The messages leaked to Sky News shows the party is divided between those who support the police being operationally independent and those who think, like Mrs. Braverman, there should be greater input from politicians. Oof. I'm actually glad there's kind of the divide, because there's some Conservative MPs who actually have their heads screwed on, even though we still think they're quite a lot, even though we still think they're crazy, pretty much the vast majority of them. But it sounds like there's some with their heads screwed on thinking this woman is absolutely destroying us and we need to put a stop to this right now. I'm very intrigued to read some of these messages, that's for sure. But what are my thoughts on what's been happening with Suella Braverman and this whole week? Because obviously there's, as of the time of this recording, there has not been a sacking. So things could change, obviously, at any time. But her consistent undermining of the Prime Minister, the very concerns about what's going to happen this weekend on Amnesty Day and Remembrance Sunday. Obviously, there'll be coverage, and we'll probably end up talking about this again next week, over the following week, over this. But I just feel like she is just trying to rile up more hatred, more bigotry, more racism, the more that she talks, and it's just really, really bad. She just needs to go away. She really, really does. I wouldn't go. I would stack her if I was the Prime Minister, and I would also do what a few people have suggested, and that's have the whip removed from her. You know, kick her out of the party, essentially. She can't do anything if she's not in the Conservative Party, if she has the whip removed from her. And then when the general election comes around, she's not going to be able to hold an MP seat as an independent, because she doesn't have any credibility. So that would basically mean her, like Boris Johnson, out of the way. At least we can hope so anyway, to be fair. So let's read into it. So, Suella Braverman and Tory critics of the police are undermining public confidence in law enforcement and eroding trust in Britain's system of democracy, according to a heated WhatsApp messages exchanges among Tory MPs leaked to Sky News. The true scale of the civil war between Tory MPs over the policing and pro-Palestinian marches and the behaviour of the Home Secretary is tonight revealed in dozens of private messages between them, which lift the lid on the far greater scale of discontent in the party than is currently playing out in public. The angry WhatsApp debate has led to angry exchanges between figures who both back and oppose Mrs. Braverman, with some accusing her Tory critics of helping Labour, while others are accused of inflaming the far right. Just dropped the bottle, just fell over there, don't worry, it's all good. In one exchange, Tory MP Carl McCartney attacked Bob Neal, the Tory MP who went public with his criticism of Ms Braverman, saying he and other critics of the Home Secretary would be getting Christmas cards from the Labour shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. Oh, God. You stretch our patience, Mr McCarthy declared. On the other side of the debate, Jackie Doyle Price said that the Tory MP should not ignore the fact there is a legitimate right to process, and added, colleagues making noise about them are simply advertising them and are making them bigger as a consequence. She later told Sky News she was more concerned about advertising the marches to the English Defence League and the Har right to kick up trouble. She said, I wish as much attention was paid to see my speeches as my WhatsApp messages. Well, we're going to be seeing them now, aren't we? Oh dear, oh dear. Danny Kruger, the socially conservative MP and strong backer of Mrs Braverman, weighed in firmly behind the Home Secretary. He said it was entirely legitimate for the government and Tory MPs to comment on how the police operate. Of course they did enforce the law, against face coverings and racist changes. There would be serious disorder, and so they would have a reason to request a ban. The only way to avoid disorder and to tolerate the intolerable is to allow the illegal. He said there was no longer enough to have a quiet word with the police when there were issues and instead advocate for proper challenge. The veteran Tory MP Bernard Jenkins made a firm intervention in the group against public criticism by Conservatives of the police receiving support from a number of colleagues. Mr Jenkins, who had been a Tory MP since 1992, asked colleagues if he was the only one who thinks that it's the most unfortunate that the chief of the Met Police is being placed under pressure from the government, which threatens to compromise public confidence in its operational independence. It comes following Mrs Braverman's explosive article in the Times on Wednesday, which she accuses the Met Police of having double standards on how it police protest. The testy exchange between Jackie Doyle-Price, who served in the government under David Cameron, and Theresa May, argued with Mr John Hayes about whether protesting is a right or allowed. Well, excuse me, so you basically want to take away people's right to protest. That's basically what it is. So John is an arch backer of Miss Braverman. He said it was so sad to see protests being allowed on Remembrance Weekend. It's not Remembrance Weekend! Stop saying it's Remembrance Weekend. Armistice Day always falls on the 11th, and it just happens to fall on a Saturday. And Remembrance Sunday is always on a Sunday. It's not. There's no such thing as a Remembrance Weekend. If anyone tells you that there's a Remembrance Weekend, there is no such thing. It's just a coincidence that the calendar and the days happen to fall on Armistice Day falling on a Saturday, and Remembrance Sunday, which is always on a Sunday. It's just a coincidence. So there's no such thing as a Remembrance Weekend. Sir John said it was wholly inappropriate and called on colleagues to speak for the law-abiding patriotic majority by saying so. Ms Doyle-Price emphasised protesting was a right and not something to be allowed. Some of those siding with Sir John including Danny Kruger, Michael Fabricant, Jill Mortimer and Mr McCarthy. William Ragg agreed with Mr Jenkins, as did Mrs Doyle-Price, Tim Lolligan and Mr Neal. "I've had enough of this rubbish," William Ragg said following the debate. This was preceded by a warning not to conduct this discussion on WhatsApp because some colleagues are untrustworthy, disgraceful leakers. The messages leaked to Sky News are from a Tory MP. WhatsApp groups were sent yesterday and today. Mrs Doyle-Price advised MPs to express their views to the whips and to the Home Secretary directly, while Mrs Mortimer warned about colleagues leaking messages sent on WhatsApp. So here's the full exchange of WhatsApp messages between Tory MPs that have been leaked to Sky News. So this was on Wednesday, the 8th of November. So John Haigh at 22:55 said, "So sad to see these protesters being allowed on the Remembrance Weekend. Wholly inappropriate. And we should speak for the law-abiding patriotic majority by saying so." You can see how I feel about that one, guys. Thursday, the 9th of November. Jackie Doyle-Price, the 9:07 a.m. There is a right to protest. They are not allowed. There is a right to protest. They are not allowed. Colleagues making noise about them are simply advertising them, and it will make them bigger as a consequence. Sir John Hayes, 9:09:23. They have been allowed by the Chief Constable, who could have requested that they be stopped. The legal right to protest has always been qualified by when, where and how, which is why organisers routinely deal with the police and local authorities. Surely most of our constituencies will regard the Remembrance Weekend as a time for quiet, solemn reflection. Sir Bernard Jenkins said, 9:28. Am I the only Conservative MP who thinks it is the most unfortunate of the Chief of Met Police being placed under public pressure from the government, which threatens to compromise public confidence in his operational independence? If he does not now ban demonstrations, some will say he is giving in to political pressure. These conversations should be conducted in private without undermining public confidence in policing in London. William Ragg, 09:29 said, "No, you're not the only one." Danny Kruger, 2 minutes later, said, "I didn't notice us all staying quiet when the cops dragged off women at the Sarah Everard vigil, or allowed Black Lives Matter to demonstrate with impunity. Of course, we and the government should comment on how the police operate. And no, Home Secretary isn't calling for the Met to request a ban, so they should, though they should, IMO, just to enforce the law. 0935, of course they did enforce the law, i.e. against face coverings of race or racist chants. There would be serious disorder, and so they'd have to request a reason to request a ban. The only way to avoid disorder is to tolerate the intolerable and to allow the illegal. Jackie Doyle Price said 0939, no, you are not. Excuse me, I burped there. It's my sincere apologies. John Stevenson at 0939 said, absolutely not as well. He also said, roughly 10 minutes later after that, said, police can't ban protests. They can, however, place restrictions on them. The Everard case gave rise to the question arising when the placing of restrictions effectively gives the police the right to ban protests. This has been compounded by recent legislation giving more powers to conduct, i.e. in relation to noise level and protect near businesses, etc. The net result is that the police are increasingly being accused of political interference. I don't see this reversing unless we depoliticise the police engagement by moving to a Northern Ireland style parade commission whereby restrictions are placed by community reps rather than the police. It seems to be working very well in Northern Ireland, where it generally regarded to have depoliticised the police. Bob Blackman adds at this time Jill Mortimer, Tom Hunt and Brendan Clark-Smith to the chat. Tim Lolivan said at 10:01:01, you are not Bernard. Danny Kruger said at 10:05, here comes the cavalry. Sorry, just had to put that in there. The incompetence of this is ridiculous to say the least. Bob Neal at 10:08 says, absolutely, you are not Bernard. Danny Kruger says at 10:14, helpful, thank you, Jonathan. I don't think we need a non-political oversight of the police. The setup now is right. We just need police to enforce the law equally. Kit Marhouse said, 10:38, I defended the police in both those instances, as I did with the topping of the statue and various other difficult operational situations. Yes, we don't always get it right, as they would freely admit. But as we scrutinise them, they deserve our respect, don't they? Bob Blackman adds Robin Miller to the chat. Danny Kruger, 10:50. I respect your constituency, Kit, and I remember you were very robust on the rioters in 2011 when I was still hugging hoodies. But times have changed, and a quiet word behind closed doors won't convince the public we are on their side and share their attitude to these disgraceful protests. What happened to the police are the public. So yes, respect, but also proper challenge. It's not disrespectful. Danny Kruger's not reading the room again. Dear, oh dear. Sir Bernard Jenkins at 10:56 said, but this confidential public discourse strikes me as another example of the fraying of the unwitting understanding on which the stability of our constitutional settlement rests, in which undermines public confidence in our system of government and democracy. Finger pointing and blaming does not strengthen our institutions. It undermines public confidence in them and becomes self-fulfilling prophecies. Also, I see no political advantage of it, if that's the idea behind it. Jackie Doyle Price 10:59 says, there is no political advantage whatsoever. Running in front of an angry herd won't stop government from being held accountable for any trouble, particularly when public comments are being so divisive. Michael Fabricant 11:07 said, did the Met ban a right-wing rally back around 2011? James Gruntley said 11:09, yes, it was the English Defence League in Tower Hamlets, if I recall. Jill Mortimer said at 11:11, there was this too, shared the links to a story in the Evening Standard over pro-rally Israel in Golders Green. Michael Fabricant at the same time said, so unlike the claims of the Met Police Commissioner who said we cannot, it seems that we can ban marches after all, or has the law changed since? Why is he making a comparison to the English Defence League to these pro-Palestine protests? It's not the... James Gruntley at 11:15. I think he claimed the threshold of risk hadn't been reached rather than the change of the law. Yes. which of course is his decision, but given very different approaches to the Gold and Greens March Jill referenced above, it doesn't seem inconsistent. 11:16 in the law, sorry. Jill Mortimer said a minute later, it is consistent with the bigger, scarier mob being allowed to have their march. Isn't that what reasonable people would call bullying? James Grundy said, a fair assessment, Jill. And Jill says a minute later, it would seem that the aggressors win and those who actually want peaceful reflection must remain silent. Bob Blackman asked Marco Loki to the chat. Carl McCarthy said at 21:42, really pleased with Bob Neal and Richard Graham's helpful public carpeting in the last 24 hours. I'm sure Christmas cards from Yvette Cooper will take pride and place among all their others, but not as half pleased as they obviously both are with themselves. You stretch our patience just like every popular Anna Soubry did. Jackie Doyle's Price, 21:48, said, I would advise the Home colleagues to express their views to whips to the Home Secretary directly. The next day, on Friday the 10th of November, Lee Anderson, 8:10. You mean instead of to the press? Virginia Crosby said, 8:11. Less, please. Jill Mortimer said at the same time. And on WhatsApp, because some colleagues are untrustworthy, disgraceful leakers. William Rogg finished it off by saying, I've had enough of this rubbish. We've had enough of you guys, if I'm honest. Did you enjoy that? My good God, guys, I cannot believe this. That you, the thing is like there are some serious Conservative MPs who are just going to be like, I'm just going to leak this to the press because I want to show just how incompetent, how out of control this party is. Obviously, there's someone there who's making a nice little... They can't say anything on their phones without something going out. It's just absolutely crazy. My God, the kamikaze between this party is insane. This is literally just a few days ago at the time of this recording. Like literally today, the day I'm recording this, and the day before. It's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Just unprofessional on all the levels, calling these protesters disgraceful as well, when they are marching for peace as well. Crazy. Absolutely crazy, guys. They really are a bit out of control, I would say. So, guys, what did you make of the WhatsApp messages? What did you make of the MPs and their remarks and what they were saying? Please enlighten me down in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts, guys, about all these comments and WhatsApp messages exchanged between the Conservative MPs. Really want to hear your thoughts, guys. It's definitely going to be argy-bargy now that it's all been leaked out. That is for sure, guys. Like, share and subscribe. Hit the like button, share across social media, and hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I drop a video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.